Hi guys, we are now on the third lesson of chapter 3. So for lessons 1 and 2, we talked about picture graphs. Now we're going to be using bar graphs. So if you look at this page, we see another graph, and it looks like a picture graph, but we're going to learn how it's going to kind of turn into a bar graph a little bit. So when we look at the top of this graph, it tells us types of sneakers we are wearing, or tennis shoes. So we have the kind with laces and the kind without laces. If we look at the laces, we can see that each one of these boxes, these squares, rectangles, is filled with a circle. And down here it says each circle stands for one child. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those boxes filled in. So just like we've always done, we're going to write a 10 at the end. And then the shoes with no laces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those boxes are filled in. So we're going to write a 6. So just looking at this graph, this picture / bar graph, we can get information from it and answer questions. We could ask, how many kids are wearing shoes with laces? 10. We could ask, how many kids are wearing shoes without laces? 6. We could also ask, how many students or kids were asked what kind of shoes they were wearing? We would take our 10 and our 6 and put it together to make 16. We could ask, how many more children are wearing shoes with laces? Those would be the extras without a match. We could ask, how many fewer students are wearing shoes with no laces? Those would be the ones that are missing. So if we were in school, we would come up with a question we could ask. You do not have to write this down, but what could a question be? All of those different things that we just said. So I'm going to write one. You can talk to your adult at home or a brother or sister and come up with a question on your own. We could say, how many children are wearing shoes with laces? Question mark. So that's just what I came up with. All right, so now if you have your paper, let's turn it over and start looking more at things that look more like a bar graph. All right, so at the top here, it tells us some information. It says, in a bar graph, each bar shows information. You can compare the lengths of the bars. What title describes this graph? We'll get back to that in a second. Right here it says, touch the end of a bar. Look down to see the number of children. Well, instead of having circles like in our picture graphs, we have a long bar of color. So here we have a bar of red, and it was saying once you get to the end, go straight down, and there's our answer of 5. We would take this one and go all the way to the end and look at the number. Same with this one, go all the way to the end and look at the number, and we'll figure out those answers in just a minute. This bar graph is talking about art tools, and we have markers, paintbrushes, and crayons. And down here it's telling us the number of children. So if we had to come up with a title, what could a title be? Well, I know it has art tools, and I know it has children. So maybe it's favorite. Gotta make that better. Favorite art tool. Or it could be something like number of children using each art tool. But we're going to pick a favorite art tool. So now let's look and get our totals. For markers, again, we're going to follow this bar all the way till it stops. We'll go straight down, and what's our answer? 5. So I'm going to write a 5. We'll do the same thing for paintbrushes. Follow that blue bar all the way till it stops. 6. So I'll write a 6. And the last one, crayons. Follow that bar. Oh, it stopped pretty short. 2. So I'm going to write a 2. Now I can use the information from my bar graph to answer questions, just like with picture graphs. So number 1, how many children chose, what is that? A paintbrush. So I'm going to go up to paintbrush, go all the way over. 6. 6 picked the paintbrush. Number 2, how many children chose crayons? Here's the crayons. Follow it. I can either look down here and know it's 2, or go to the end. It's 2. So I'm going to write a 2. This is just like reading a picture graph, except instead of counting each square, we just go to the end of the bar. Let's look at number 3. How many more, keyword, how many more children chose paintbrushes than crayons? Well, we can figure this out a couple of ways. We can look at our numbers over here and know that 6 children picked paintbrushes, 2 children picked crayons, and write a subtraction sentence, 6 minus 2. Or we can look at our bars and say, those are still going, it's still going. Oh, this one stopped. Let's count how many areas or sections it takes to get to the end of this. So here we go. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, is 6 minus 2 4? Yes, it is. So I'm just going to put here 6 minus 2 equals 4. 4 more children picked paintbrushes than crayons. Let's look down at number 4 now. Which art tool did the fewest, keyword, fewest children choose? So remember, fewest, same as smallest number. So which art tool, the paintbrush, the crayon, or the marker, had the smallest number of children pick it? Well, let's look up here. Markers had 5, paintbrushes had 6, crayons had 2. Which of those is the smallest number? 2. Or I could look at how long each one of these bars is and find the shortest one. That goes back to our measuring using putting lines in order from shortest to longest or longest to shortest. And if we're doing the fewest children, it would be the shortest line or bar, which is crayons. So we're going to circle the crayon. Now, which art tool did the most children choose? Well, remember most, that would be the biggest or largest. So if I go back up to my bar graph, which one of our lines is the longest? Paintbrushes is the longest. And when I look at my numbers, 5, 6, and 2, 6 is the biggest number. So what tool is that? The paintbrush. So I'm going to circle the paintbrush. Answering questions using a bar graph is very similar to answering questions using a picture graph. Now this bar graph, if you look at it, is going across. So our numbers start right at the beginning and move to the right. Let's take a look at the next page. This bar graph that's on this page looks different. It looks like it's turned. So instead of going from left to right, this bar graph is going from the bottom to the top. We read it the same way. We have our title, favorite vehicle. Over here, now we have number of children, where that used to be on the bottom. And over here, we have kinds of vehicles. We have a car, a truck, and a dump truck. So when we switched the way our bars were going, so did our two other information areas. So let's take a look at number 6. We're going to answer some more questions. How many children chose, what is that? Not sure. Let's look at the picture. Car. So how many children chose cars? Well, instead of going from left to right to look at our bar, we're going to go from the bottom, go all the way to the top to when the bar stops, and go over to the side. What number is that? 2. So we have 2 children that chose cars. Now, I'm going to erase that. We did not write our numbers at the top like we've done with our other bar graphs. We could either write at the top, which might be kind of hard, or we could write them down here so I know that's 2. If I look at truck, start down here, move up, stop, 5. So I could write a 5. And then the last one, the dump truck, I could start at the bottom. I could go all the way till it stops at the top, go over, 6. So I could write a 6 here. All right, let's move on and answer some more questions using our data from the graph. Number 7, how many children chose, is that truck or dump truck? Got to match my picture. Dump truck. How many? I see the number 6. I can also go all the way up. It's 6. So I'm going to write 6. All right, next question. How many children in all? Oh, keywords, in all. That tells me I'm going to be adding. How many children in all chose car and dump truck? Well, I know car is 2. Dump truck is 6. And if I'm adding 6 plus 2, put it in my head, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8. I can also write it down here if that helps me remember. 6 plus 2 equals 8. I can also count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're using our adding skills, our addition skills. Let's look down here at number 9. How many more children, keywords, how many more children chose truck than car? Oh, okay. So if it's asking how many more, that means we're going to have to subtract the number of cars from trucks, and it'll tell us how many more trucks there are. So let's see. Trucks, how many do I have? Down here it says 5. Let's check. Yep, 5. So I'm going to write 5 minus, and we want to know the number of cars, 2. So 5 minus 2 equals, well, we count back. 5 minus 2. 5 take away 2. 5, then 4, 3. So I'm going to write there are 3 more. Well, let's just look here. Here are my cars. Here are my trucks. How many blank spaces are here? Or how many more spaces do the bars part for the truck take? 1, 2, 3. Our answer is correct. Let's take a look now at number 10. Which vehicle did the most children choose? Okay, remember that word most means the biggest number, the greatest number, or the longest or tallest bar. So let's look at our bar graph. Which one of these is the biggest or the tallest? The dump truck. So I'm going to circle the dump truck. Now let's look at number 11. Ooh, this one's going to take some thinking. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's erase that. We are going to order the vehicles from least to most votes. So from smallest number of votes to the largest number of votes. write 1 for the least or smallest number and 3 for the most. Well, which one has the smallest number? Or which is the shortest bar? Car. So I want to write a 1 underneath the car. Now we're going to find what has the most votes or the longest or tallest bar. Yep, it'd be the dump truck. So underneath the dump truck, I want to write a 3. And my paper, I can't move a little bit, so that's why I'm writing it where I am. And that means what's left, the number 2 in the middle, would be the last vehicle that we don't have anything written for, which would be the truck. So it goes in order from least number of votes to most number of votes. And it just happens that these pictures are in order. All right, so we've learned so far how to use a bar graph that goes from left to right and a bar graph that goes from the bottom to the top. And we've answered questions that are very similar to the questions we answered using a picture graph. Let's go ahead and turn to the last page. I see another bar graph. This bar graph is going from left to right. The title, how our jackets are fastened. It's either through zippers or buttons. That's the type of fastener, and our number of jackets are down here. So before we start reading the questions, let's write down the information we know. Zippers, how many have zippers? Keep following the bar till it stops. Go down, 5. So I'm going to write a 5. Then buttons, let's follow the button bar. Stops here, 2. So I'm going to write a 2. Now we can answer our questions. Kim puts on a jacket with buttons. Add her jacket to the graph. Now, how many jackets have buttons? All right, so we've added another number. We need to draw that part onto the graph. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to color in her button jacket. So now I've added that. Since I've added it, I need to change my total number. Where does that bar end? That bar ends at the number 3. So now we have 3 jackets with buttons. And I can write my answer there. Oh, I used the wrong color. Let's erase it. And 3. There we go. All right. Now let's look at another one. Oh, this one's a go deeper. Ed adds a row to the graph to show jackets with snaps. 2 fewer jackets have snaps than have zippers. How many jackets have snaps? We have lots of steps in there. So first, Ed adds a row to the graph to show jackets with snaps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say snaps, and then we need to figure out where my bar is going to go, and I'm going to draw my bar over those numbers. So if I go back here, it says 2 fewer or 2 less jackets have snaps than zippers. So we're going to come up here and look at the zippers. And if we take 2 away, 1, 2, where did we end? 3. So I'm going to add a bar that goes to 3. So when I look at this now, I can make sure this is 2 fewer, 1, 2, than the zippers. So how many are there? 3. So I'm going to write 3. Our last question on here, it's a think smarter one. Oh, I keep marking on the wrong thing. Sorry, guys. There we go. Use the graph. How many more, keyword, jackets have zippers than buttons. Circle the answer. So we can either choose 7, 5, or 3. Which one of those numbers tells us how many more jackets have zippers than buttons? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to have to take away what we added, because that was in another question. So looking at the way the bar graph was originally, let's look. So here are our zippers. We have 5. If we try and find out how many more up here we have than down here, this one's gone away. So this is 1 jacket more. This makes 2 jackets more. This makes 3 jackets more. So I would want to circle 3. We can also think of it as the 5 jackets with zippers minus the 2 jackets with buttons equals 3 more jackets. If you have any questions about using bar graphs, make sure to ask your teacher or your adult at home. You will use what you've learned in this lesson to solve your worksheet. That should be on Google Classroom.